Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For. Trevor's back this week. Last week I kind of went on my own just a little bit, went a little shorter, and thank people. And I want to continue to do that. For those of you who do follow, I do coach Tumble Girls Golf, and Steve Shetler had me on his morning sports show on Saturday mornings. And I do want to thank him for that and promoting high school sports, and then obviously bringing Ottumwa up to Sigourney for that day. And then Albia was there too with their soccer team. So Steve does a great job, and other people do too. Scott Jackson from the Ottumwa Courier does a great job as well, promoting local high school sports. And those people don't get enough credit. And, the local radio stations and everybody, I do think we are very well represented here in Southeast Iowa with media like that, Valley and Waukees and Ankeny's. They might have better teams and everything, but the Des Moines Register doesn't send people to all their stuff. They don't have a writer that gets to know the girls or the boys or whoever it is. And we're lucky here in a rural part of the state. Ottumwa's a big enough town to support a radio station. They do have a TV station and newspaper. So we are very lucky in that sense to get that coverage that not everybody does. And that's one thing I do try to, tell my girls, that not every team gets this. And when I coach basketball and I coach football in the past, Scott Jackson's there's no way they pay him enough to do what he does. And he does a great job. And I do want to thank him for that, and others as well.
Yeah. Thanks to Steve. I know I'm not living in Iowa anymore. Where I get most of my sporting news in the state of Iowa is either with Keith Murphy for more of the college stuff. Obviously, Steve Shetler Media for Southeast Iowa. That's usually where I go to try to get all my information. And then I know, I think Brett Foster runs the Husky Boys golf account on Facebook. And I know a lot of people put in just personal time, stuff that maybe they're not even getting paid for to help keep everybody updated on Southeast Iowa sports. So you're right. It takes a lot of people to kind of keep everybody updated on what's going on with all the different sports, boys, girls at all levels.
Yep. Just wanted to get that out there. And again, we want to thank Steve. He helps us out as well. A little bit extra there with obviously putting our show on. All right, getting into this week, it is getting a little bit, and I listened to, Murph and Andy, the Morning Rush, The Rush, just several different shows, and this is becoming the time of the year that you kind of have to maybe dig, or maybe you go off tangent and you don't talk as much sports, because, we're not a big NBA talk. We don't talk much NBA. Baseball's hard to do because it is every day, but it's not trade deadline time. It's not getting to August, September when the races are taking shape. Hockey, same thing. We just don't talk about it. The playoffs are awesome. I like to turn on a game, but I don't have a team that I'm following. Same thing with the NBA. So this is where you can go tangent and everything. However, in the state of Iowa, and with us in particular, the Caitlin Clark effect has changed that a little bit. And that's leading our program tonight is Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever, WNBA, final cut down day for a lot of teams today. And the season starts Friday with the Fever playing Saturday. As Trevor just informed me, he is our insider, as we call him. And last summer, that really helped out a lot, because those of you who have followed us for a long time, there was the first 3-4 years of our podcast, we kind of took the summers off. Even we just, we'd ended about now, and then we'd come back end of July, early August when it's ready for football. With Steve, letting us be on his show, that's still a weekly thing. He still wants that programming. That pushed us, but then Caitlin Clark has helped that a lot, and not going on tangents and having to talk about Mount Rushmores and, things that always get done this time of year in sports talk radio and throughout the summer. So we do want to thank Caitlin Clark as well for providing us information to talk about. And then the NBA actually has been very compelling this year compared to normal, I think. More storylines, some of that is with Haliburton being an Iowa State guy, kind of being the face of the Pacers. And you could almost say the most newsworthy person over the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. You don't know how it's going to go forward, but beating Giannis, last second shot, his dad coming in, now beating the number 1 seed Cavaliers 4-1, great game to end it. He's playing all NBA type right now. And with that local connection, that does help us a lot.
Yeah, for the state of Indiana, between Caitlin Clark, Haliburton, I'm sure you've seen the post going around. If the Colts can just find a quarterback, the whole state of Indiana is really good, in a really good spot right now. Notre Dame was in obviously the championship game. Indiana football's got Kurt Cinetti. Purdue, Purdue's good in men's basketball. So If the Colts can find a quarterback, the whole state of Indiana is in a pretty good spot. And really starting with Caitlin Clark, of course.
Yep.
They got their final roster cut down. Their first game is Saturday at 2:00 Iowa time. It's going to be on ABC versus Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. So we knew that was coming. You could have gave us any amount of guesses before the season or before they released that. That's what everybody would have guessed. So they're a 7.5 point favorite. Expectations are really high for the Fever, as they should be. They brought in a bunch of new players. Caitlin Clark is the favorite to win MVP, which I think she and Asia should be, which those are the 2 favorites. What I'm really interested in the first game and then early on in the season, first of all, looking at their schedule, it's a lot more reasonable than it was last year, the first 10 games. So I really think they can get off to a 7-3 or an 8-2 start through their first 10. But what I'm going to really be interested in is, especially against Chicago and like I said, the first quarter of the season, when the shots aren't falling, maybe when some of these new teammates aren't used to the passes, what's the communication like during the game? Do they continue to communicate and have good ball movement, or does it turn into one-on-one basketball? We see that all the time in men's and women's, both sides. When the communication stops, a lot of times it turns into one-on-one. The difference this year is the Fever have so many great individual players that they can probably win a lot of games if they just have 1 or 2 players go off, compared to last year where they had to play really well as a team. Now, if they want to get to the finals this year, they are going to have to play good as a team. But I think they're going to be able to get away with maybe playing a C game as a team a lot of times throughout the year, just because they've got so much individual talent.
Did they finish undefeated preseason?
3-0, yep.
Yeah, so it's not a big sample, but we talked about it every time they added a free agent or whatever. They are a much, much, much improved team on paper. It is, you just talked about it, hit it right on the head. Communication, figuring it out. Most of these players have not played with Caitlin Clark, and she gives you passes when you don't think it's going to be there, and it is right on the money. But if you're not ready for it, it doesn't work. So there will be some growing pains with that. But as you said, individually, they're good enough that Caitlin Clark can go off for 30. She can go do a triple-double. Bonner can take over a game. There's others that can just, when you need a bucket, you can go get it. And it's not just one player. And sometimes in basketball, that is what you need. Hey, things aren't working great. Get it to your player, set a ball screen, or get out of the way and let them do what they do.
Yeah, they've got so much talent on the team that I think there could be 2 or 3 game stretches where everybody's healthy, but 1 or 2 of the players doesn't really score much. And it might seem like they're not playing well, but it could just be one of the factors could be that they don't really need them to score because other players are playing so well depending on the matchups. Also, I think Stephanie White's going to try to get Caitlin Clark's minutes down a little. She's talked about, they're really deep, so I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to cut a minute or 2 off of Caitlin's minutes per game last year. I think she averaged right around 36 minutes. They play 40-minute games, so don't be shocked if she tries to give Caitlin a little bit more rest. And the good thing about having all this depth, too, is if there's an injury, if Caitlin or anybody has to miss a game or 2, they can still go out there and win.
And that's what you want. You want them. So this first game, I haven't even looked. Is it in Chicago or is it in Indianapolis?
Indianapolis.
Okay, so it's at Gamebridge Arena.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps continuing, and everything I see, they just keep moving games when the Fever and Caitlin Clark are involved to the big arenas in that city. Doesn't matter what city, doesn't matter what it is. If they don't play in the big arena, they move it to the big arena when she gets there.
Yeah, most of her games are going to go to the bigger arenas. Speaking of the Saturday game, if they win, it's going to be great. Everyone's going to think, okay, this team can go win the title. If they lose, it'll be a big deal. The Fever will be overrated, but as we know, they're either going to be 1-0 or 0-1, and they've got 39 other games to play. If you look at, just to give you an idea, Vegas has their over-under win total 29.5. Now they play 40 regular season games, so they have the second best win totals as far as over-unders go. And I do think about 29-11, 30-10 is realistic for them. Last year they went 20-20 in the regular season. This season I would be disappointed if, assuming health, of course. I think 25-15 minimum is where they need to be or better.
Yeah, and then health is always a thing, and we're going to get to that in the NBA real quick. And health is a real situation, and another great player, one of the elite players, goes down for a year. I mean, he's not going to be ready for the beginning of next year. And we'll get to that. But so besides the Fever, who is the team still favored to win it? You said they were second to win it?
New York, I think their over-unders 30.5 or 31.5. And then the Fever, Minnesota, and Vegas are all tied at 29.5 with their win totals. So those are the big four. And most people think that's going to be the potentially any matchup of those four will be the finals. And, speaking of Chicago's win total is 19.5. So it kind of shows you the gap there between the Fever and the Sky. So we'll see how Chicago comes out that first game, but New York is the favorite, and then Vegas, the Fever, and Minnesota kind of bunched together.
And New York is the defending champ, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with Anescu, right? And
and Stewart, and I'm starting to learn where some of these players are at. Besides, Indiana, and I'm sure you are too, and a lot of others that just started watching last year like we did. So I'm starting to figure out certain names. I'm starting to recognize them a little bit more, but. Yeah, last year I had no idea what to expect. I know you didn't. Nobody really did.
Right.
We didn't know what channels they were going to be on. We didn't know 95% of the players in the league. The scheduling, the arenas, it's a little bit different than the NBA, and trying to get all that figured out. Feel like I have a little better grasp on it going into this season. And then, of course, the Fever are going to be on a lot of main broadcasts, so that's going to help the folks in Iowa and other places be able to watch the games.
I did hear something, and I did not listen to it enough to go real into on this, but I believe Iowa and the Indiana Fever did some type of deal where in the Des Moines area, which is our local area, Channel 5 is going to have their games. Almost all of them, even the ones not on the national, obviously there's probably going to be some games on ESPN and stuff but they're like local broadcast that would be locally in Indianapolis on a random Tuesday night against whoever, I believe is being put on in like 3 or 4 places in Iowa, and Channel 5 in Des Moines. And I think there's a Quad City station and maybe a Sioux City station or a Council. I mean, there's 3 or 4 of them around that either bought the rights or were given the rights to something that they're going to be able to watch almost every game for technically free.
You're right. I just got on their social media page real quick. So Des Moines, WOI, and KC.
That's Channel 5.
23. So in the Des Moines area, and then Davenport will have their channels. But for Oski, that'll be 5 and 23, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big deal, and that's smart. The fire's going. We want to strike. I mean, don't let it fall, and the more people can watch, hometown team, you've got that market just ready to go. And if you just feed it and you will make money. I promise. I think, the preseason game or exhibition game going to Iowa City was great. Maybe you can't go there every year, but I think you try to get to Des Moines next year if it works with the arena.
Yeah, depending on scheduling and how all that works, I would have to think that the Fever would try to get to Iowa at least once a year for a preseason game, wherever it might be. The arena was packed. It got over 1 million viewers. You and everybody else saw all the different sporting events that have beat out. So yeah, I think that's going to be a no-brainer for the Fever moving forward.
Yeah, it's just, ESPN will broadcast it. It will sell out in as little time as it actually takes to physically buy tickets. And yeah, it's just a big deal. We as Iowans, we do everything we can to claim athletes like this. We don't have to do anything to claim her. She is from Des Moines. Her family is from Des Moines. She went to the University of Iowa, and now she's in a pro sports team that's not that far away. It's not the closest team, but it is close enough. And kind of a match made if they do an exhibition or a true preseason game, the Minnesota Lynx coming down and playing with the Iowa Wild having that affiliation, and then Bridget Carleton, one of Iowa State's all-time best players, is one of the key contributors to Minnesota.
Yeah, we've talked about that before with the Minnesota connection there with Iowa State. That would seem like a no-brainer as well if you could somehow get that matchup.
Go have Caitlin go play in Hilton. It would. It would work. It would be just fine. Yes, it'd be a little weird, but it would work the same way. It'd just be the Iowa State running it instead of Iowa, but it would sell out. It would have the same atmosphere. Yeah,
it would definitely work. And speaking to Caitlin, real quick before we move on, to everybody noticed she's added muscle. She's been working on that. The one thing I am interested in is the offense might be a little bit different. We'll see how she does with that. But I've talked about this. I think the Fever are going to be involved in quite a few scuffles this season, even more than last year. So, and then Caitlin in particular, she's going to get a lot of technicals this year. And I can't remember off the top of my head. I forgot to look it up. I don't know after so many technicals if you get suspended a game. The NBA has their own rules. But I wouldn't be surprised if she gets to that point and gets suspended a game. She already got a technical in that in the preseason. I think that's going to continue. That's really probably her biggest weakness is that final preseason game. She went down on the court after the Fever just scored. She was complaining to the ref, and the other team went right down and scored an easy bucket. If she's going to complain, she's got to get up off the court and get back. If you're going to complain to the ref, fine, but make sure you're hustling down the court. You can't be laying there unless you're hurt. So hopefully that's something that Stephanie White's going to clean up a little bit. But I wouldn't be shocked if Caitlin gets so many technicals that at some point she gets suspended a game, if that is a rule.
Yeah, I do think, yes, they got way better players, but I think Stephanie White being her coach is going to help Caitlin and help that team. It's going to be she has the background and more of a, when she gets on Caitlin Clark or tells her to not do something and she does it, she's going to get on her and she's not going to back down. Hey, I've done this. I know what I'm doing. Last year's coach didn't have that background. If she's whining and complaining too much and Stephanie White says, knock it off and get your butt back, I do think Caitlin's going to react to that differently than last year.
Yes, Stephanie White's got a lot more power and respect in the locker room. You can tell that. So it should be a good season. Caitlin will definitely listen to her. I think she's going to become a better player. Obviously, it's year 2. She actually got some real time off, unlike last year, and that's what the rookies are going to have to do this year. The only difference is it's not an Olympic year. So Caitlin had the full effect of college right into the season. Obviously, she didn't make the Olympic team, but when they got that break, when they came back after that, that's when the Fever really hit their stride. So I think if the Fever could maybe start off like 9-1 or something, maybe they could flirt with the all-time win record, which is, I think it's 34 wins under the 40-game schedule that they're doing right now. Vegas had that in 23, but we'll have to see how the first 10 games go first, if they're going to flirt with that or not. I'm just really interested. If you look at one last betting thing, the 6th woman of the year, the Fever have 3 players kind of bunched together, not bunched together, but on it. You got Sophie Cunningham at 6-1, DeWanna Bonner at 15-1, and Lexi Hull at 25-1. And I think what's that saying is they're not sure who's going to start
right
long term. Is that 5th or 6th player? it's going to be a lot of rotations, and maybe they'll all cancel each other out, and none of them will win it, right?
Yeah.
Because they're so deep.
Yeah. So let's, that's probably, good enough for the WNBA. Other Iowa State players that made teams. Bridget Carlton is, with Minnesota for sure. Lucy Olson did. This was a big question. Lucy Olson did make Washington. Any others that you know of? And I definitely couldn't miss some.
Yeah, we'll probably definitely miss some. Obviously, Kate Martin on Golden State, but that was that was kind of a no-brainer one as well. That's Lucy Olson making it in Washington. Off the top of my head, I know we're probably missing a couple, but those two for sure.
Yeah. So, but the Lucy Olson one was a big question mark, and I know she did make it, and that was kind of a big deal today on social media.
Yep, they both made it. So it's nice that Iowa State and Iowa both have multiple players in the WNBA. The explosion's happening, so it makes makes the summer go by a little bit better, especially for us, because as you mentioned in the beginning, we don't talk a lot of baseball. I'm not a big baseball guy, but this has kind of got the whole state of Iowa eyeballs on it, and to have players from Iowa and Iowa State, it should just keep growing.
Yep. All right, let's move to the NBA now. Well, really, the story is injuries. Steph Curry hasn't played for Golden State for a couple games, is questionable and working his way back, might be available for Game 6. But then I believe it was Monday night, which my days are running together, and that's a whole nother topic that we could talk about, but we won't. I've had golf tournaments and just things going on, and I get home, I either go to bed or I don't get home till 11:30 at night. Like tonight, we're going late here. We're started about 10 o'clock, and I walked in my house about 9:45. So just the way it goes, and that's all right. That's life, and I don't want it any other way. But Jason Tatum tore his Achilles, so he's out. Boston's in serious trouble. I don't think they can win now without him because he was having an unbelievable game. I was watching that game. I haven't watched a whole lot of the NBA playoffs, but that was a game I was watching. I saw it happen. Shots, he had like 40-some points before that happened. The shots he was hitting, he was being guarded well. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but there's sometimes it doesn't matter what you do. These guys are so good on offense that they hit shots. It's like, ooh, that's a bad shot. Nothing but net. And obviously that's why Jason Tatum is one of the best players in the league, one of the highest paid players in the league. There's just things you can't do. And then Jalen Brunson going right back the other way, same thing. And just a way different player, but just so tough and tenacious, gets to the rim and finishes in all kinds of weird ways because he's not a big guy down there.
It's really unfortunate for Boston. I mean, Jason Tatum, one of the best players in the league, basically already a Hall of Famer. I think he's only 27 years old. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, he's going to miss most of next season. They did win tonight, though, so they're still alive. I think most people expect, obviously, the Knicks to at least win one of the next two. It would be a major letdown for Knicks fans if they somehow blew this now that Jason Tatum is out.
Spike Lee would lose his mind. And here's what's, the Knicks are weird. They've been horrible, and they're finally getting better. They got those Villanova guys, and they're getting better. They made a trade for Cat. But looking at who is at those games, I mean, you had all the former Knick guys there. You got Rick Pitino, who used to be their coach. And then you got some of the celebrities. Obviously Spike Lee's always there. But when it's just like USC football or any of those big teams, when they win, those people come. And the price of everything goes up, and the Knicks make more money, and it's not a bad day to be the big time and being relevant when you're the New York Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks, really, their history isn't all that great for being, a big time basketball program in New York City, right? So, yeah, a bucket list of mine would be to go to a Knicks game someday at Madison Square Garden, and it's a place I've never been. Who knows if I'll ever get there, but definitely would love to. So, the Knicks and Pacers looks like that's probably going to be the matchup in the East, of course, and then, with the Lakers getting knocked out, it looks like obviously I think the Warriors are playing right now. They're probably going to get knocked out too. Steph's hurt. If it ends up being Minnesota versus OKC and then the Knicks versus the Pacers, it's kind of a changing of the guard, and it's three kind of smaller markets, and then the Knicks. But I think it's good. I think NBA fans are ready for something new. There's been so many years of LeBron and Steph Curry that the NBA, everyone's searching who's going to be the next face of the league. It seems like Anthony Edwards is willing to take that. He's not scared of it. He's very charismatic. He's more personable, I guess, than Jason Tatum is, even though Jason Tatum might be a more well-rounded player and already a champion. But it feels like Anthony Edwards wants to be the face of the league. Tyrese Haliburton's getting talked about all the time because he got voted most overrated, which he's proven that wrong time and time again, which is really nice to see. And then you've got the young Oklahoma City Thunder. If they can knock off Denver, of course, who was a champion a few years ago. The Final Four for the NBA is setting up to be, some new teams finally.
Yeah, the NBA deep down really wants those Knicks, though. The other three markets are not very big. The Minneapolis market isn't. I mean, it's big enough. But if it would be Indiana and Oklahoma City, that's a couple small markets.
Small markets, I'd be interested, what the ratings would be compared to other years. But I think fans are ready for something new. Maybe the ratings would turn out to be high. It just LeBron and Steph carried the league for so long. The league is searching for who's going to be that next guy or couple of players. And Anthony Edwards seems like he wants it. Now, part of that comes with becoming a champion at some point to be the face of the league. So we'll see how it plays out.
And Edwards was the number one pick out of Georgia, right? I mean, he was good, but you didn't see him much, right? Was he the number one pick?
I forget if he was, but you're right. He did play at Georgia. Did they not even make the tournament when he was there?
Yeah, he was only there 1 year, I'm pretty sure, and they didn't win. But where I first saw him, and I thought he was really good, was the Adam Sandler basketball movie Hustle. And he was Sandler found this guy from Europe and was bringing him over and trying to get him there. But this guy was he was kind of playing himself, the number one pick-ish. He was the hot shot. And I thought he was really, really good in that. And as you said, he's trying to be the face of the league. He's charismatic. He's kind of a pest. He's getting into Steph and he's getting into Draymond, just getting into LeBron, just getting into all the guys that he grew up was a huge fan of, I'm sure, as a basketball player and basketball fan. And that's what you like to see. The NBA is different. You see their faces. You see them interact with each other. The NFL is the most popular, but no one has any idea what is said to Tom Brady, Ray Lewis to Tom Brady in 2007, game. It might be the best thing ever. They're trash talking each other. I guarantee it. But you just don't know it because you can't see it through the face mask. You don't see their face. The NBA, the basketball players are so close to the crowd. And that's a whole argument there with the Haliburton thing, which is kind of scary in the big picture. But that's what makes basketball so much different and so popular for a lot of people because you can get close to them. You can see their face. You can read lips and see what they're saying and stuff like that.
Yeah, the NBA is about the individual or a small group of individuals. Like I said, you can see their face. You're close to the game. They all have the different shoes going on. That's a big deal. Social media, whereas the NFL, it's more about the shield. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes and some of these guys are really popular, but we went from Montana, Steve Young, Elway, Brett Favre, into the Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. Most of those guys are retired now, except A-Rod, which we're still waiting on. But now we've got Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and Lamar, and eventually those guys will retire, and the NFL will just keep moving along. The NBA is a little bit different, though, just kind of like what you explained. The fans are closer. It's a little bit more of an individual sport, and it does seem like Ant wants to become that guy.
And he's good. And that's Minnesota has not been good. I think they've been to the finals, the conference finals, one time in their history. Now, they're not super old. They were a mid-90s expansion team. I remember when they started. I think it was them and the Hornets, early 90s, I believe. 92, 93 would be my guess. I don't know that for sure. Maybe late 80s. But yeah, I remember when they started. Kevin Garnett was their guy. They were always good, but they could never get anywhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, was that the Hornets? Was that Hornets jacket that everybody had in the 90s growing up?
I had it. I had a Hornets poster. I loved them. Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, and Muggsy Bogues. That was the three people on my poster.
Yeah, I saw something on Instagram the other night that 90s kids or something, but it'll show a video or a picture or something that everybody had, and it was that Hornets jacket.
Well, and everybody had the starter jackets, and there were a lot of Hornets because it was the colors. They were different. Yeah. It was the teal. It was the green, whatever. I mean, it was kind of purple, but everybody had a starter jacket. And I remember we went to Des Moines mostly, but every once in a while you go to Omaha just for something different. Wasn't that much farther from us. And then everybody had Nebraska. I mean, obviously, we're talking when I'm 12, 13 years old, Nebraska had just won a national title. They're winning another one the next year. Everybody was wearing Nebraska starter jackets. I mean, when you went to the mall in Omaha, I mean, they are nuts. And the joke now is they're still wearing those same starter jackets 35 years later.
Still living in the glory days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the NBA's I'm looking forward to the Final Four, however it shapes up, because like I said, it's going to be some new blood now. If the Pacers make it, that'll be cool because, again, that Indianapolis area, it almost feels collegiate. It feels like a mix of pro and collegiate going on there in Indy. If the Knicks make it, that'll be cool too because they haven't been there in such a long time, and Madison Square Garden and all that. So I think it's good for the NBA. The one thing that I don't know if it's good or bad, and I didn't have it written down, is this whole draft lottery.
Conspiracy theories are rolling because, and I'm sure you heard it. I heard it. It's like, well, LeBron's about done. We got to get somebody to LA. You can trade LeBron for street clothes, a couple prospects, and the number one pick. Okay, we'll make that trade.
Yeah, for them to get Luka, in the middle of the night, whenever that happened a couple months ago, or whatever it was, it definitely didn't seem like Dallas got enough back. And then now Dallas gets the number one pick. I mean, it's even NBA players, LeBron and other NBA players are tweeting out laughing emojis. Like even they think it's rigged. So
1.8% chance.
Which is still, I mean, it can happen. I mean, it's,
right.
It's just about 2%. So 2 times out of 100, right? It can happen. So I try to look at both sides of that. It's not like it's impossible, but it does seem awfully convenient that that they had this big mess there in Dallas. They send one of the best players in the league to LA, and then this is kind of their payback for doing
this. This was part of the trade,
right?
I'm just gonna say it. This was part of the trade.
It seems like it.
It's I'll be honest, it probably is just coincidence. But if you're Adam Silver and you see that done a little bit, and you know that nothing nefarious happened, don't you just go like this and go, "You got to be kidding me!" Just because you know what's going to come out. I mean, those guys they're smart people.
Yeah, I'm sure when it got down to the final 3 teams, the final 2, he's like, he knows what this is going to be online and social media, whether it was done, the right way that it's supposed to, or whether it was rigged. I mean, one way or another, he's just got to be shaking his head thinking, boy, tomorrow is going to be and it has been just a mess online and all the talk shows and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, the Patrick Ewing frozen envelope, or who was the other one that folded corners? Maybe LeBron was folded corners with Cleveland. I mean, there's theories.
There is, and I think the teams that had the worst records, I think they all were tied for 14% to get the first pick. So, I mean, it's meant to prevent tanking, right? So even if you are the worst team, you only have a 14% chance of getting it. So it really, in theory, it's a good idea. Just this year with everything that happened, I mean, it seems like a Hollywood script.
Oh, you cannot make that up.
No, and especially Nico, all the hate he was getting there in Dallas after the trade, and now all of a sudden Dallas has got Page and Cooper Flagg, so things are good in Dallas now.
Yeah, I mean, surely they're going to take Cooper Flagg, aren't they? They're not going to mess this up, are they?
The only thing that I've heard is maybe they would trade for Giannis, but if I would think you would take Cooper Flagg because he's so much younger, right? And
he's supposed to be graduating high school right now.
Right.
That's what people don't. He's a year younger. So he's probably 17. He's not even 18 years old yet.
Yeah, Adam Silver may not let Dallas trade this pick. They try.
Just keep going deeper. You cannot. You have to choose somebody.
Yeah, he might. There might be a closed door discussion, but if that was to come out that Nico was shopping the pick, Adam Silver might be giving him a call.
Yeah, he maybe just wants fired.
It seemed like it, but now it all seems a part of the deal, like you said.
All right. And then the next thing on our list was the NFL schedule release. Big games. Vikings are out of the country. What are some of your key takeaways from the draft or the schedule release? Sorry.
Well, the first takeaway is stuff starts coming out a few days ago. It slowly starts coming out, and the NFL has to love it because now they're in the news all week during the NBA playoffs and everything, and they're going to be in the news next week. Because of my second takeaway is everything officially got released a couple hours ago. It's going to take a full week for everybody to kind of digest all the different schedules, but it's 2 weeks of being in the news for the NFL. The first game of the year is Cowboys and Eagles, which I don't mind. I know a lot of people are upset by that. You and I aren't Cowboy fans, so I'm looking forward to it. If the Cowboys go in there and get rolled, it's gonna make me happy. The one thing I did notice about that game is I think the Eagles are already a 7 or a 7.5 point favorite, which is a lot. If that gets up to 8 or 8.5, I may have to take the Cowboys just to cover. I mean, I could see that being a 27-20 type of game where the Eagles win, but the Dallas covers.
Yeah, I could see that too. I heard, I don't remember which show it was, had a poll like, what team are you just tired of seeing? They're on your TV. It was the Lakers, the Yankees, the Cowboys, and there was one other. I can't remember who it was.
Chiefs?
No, because the Dallas was the NFL team, and Dallas won. It wasn't even close. The Lakers were second. And then the Yankees, which is crazy, was third, maybe even fourth. I can't remember. Maybe it was only 3. But, yeah, I'm just surprised that because the difference is all the others have won recently. Cowboys haven't done squat in 30 years.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys, I saw something before we got started. I think they have the second most primetime games, which is no surprise, of course.
Right.
And I think it was 6. I'd have to go double check. But anyway, they're in primetime a lot like they always are. Dallas is a big draw. But even most of the sports networks, the sportscasters, even Dallas fans are even getting a little bit tired of Dallas. I think even their fans would be like, yeah, we probably shouldn't be in this many primetime games. It should go to some other teams. If you look at, again, sticking to the first week of the season, Kansas City and the Chargers are going to play in Brazil. Again, that international games are 7 games outside of the States. The Steelers at the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers does end up signing with the Steelers.
When will that happen? I mean, everybody's assuming this because they didn't take a quarterback early. They don't have anybody, and he's still looking for a place. When's that going to happen?
There was rumors it was going to happen either yesterday or today, and then of course people thought, well, if that news is out, then Rodgers will wait a day or two just to mess with everybody.
Right.
Rodgers' timeline, who knows? I'm kind of done trying to figure him out, but yeah, I think they've got Mason Rudolph on the team, Will Howard, so they're banking on Rodgers signing there. I assume he's going to, so if he does, that'll be a big week 1 game. Looking at the Thanksgiving lineup, which I think is I like the Thanksgiving and the Christmas games. Thanksgiving, we got Packers at Lions, followed by Chiefs at Cowboys, and then the night game will be Bengals at Ravens.
Yeah, those are good. So a good divisional matchup at night. Then obviously, the Lions and Cowboys always host. You said the Packers, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think the NFC North is. I was listening. Now he's a Bears guy, or he's a Chicago. I shouldn't say but David Kaplan. He thinks the Packers are going to finish last in that division, but I still think they're going to be decent, even if they end up do finish last, because that means everybody else is kind of like last year, where the Bears weren't great. They went really bad when their coach got fired. I mean, but they were, and the Packers, who even made the playoffs, they beat everybody else. they lost every game in the division except for one when they blocked the field goal for the Bears. That was the only win the Packers had in the division. Now they won like all their other games. So, so obviously he's a huge fan of the coaching hire and then boosting their lines to be a much better team. He thinks the Bears will finish second in that division.
That's a tough division to figure out. It's going to be a gauntlet. That division's loaded right now. Speaking of your Bears, they play on Black Friday right after those Thanksgiving games. They're at the Eagles, which is going to be a tough one.
That's a tough game. Yep.
And then, go ahead with the division. Yeah, it's a tough division.
Yeah, and then, obviously, J.J. McCarthy is just a huge question mark. He has the talent. They say he has every throw in the book, a good leader. He just hasn't done it. And it's not his fault. He got hurt. But it's just hard to rely on someone that's never done it when you're trying to win, quote unquote, the toughest division in football and trying to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, all those teams have question marks. The Lions, they lost both their coordinators. The Packers, like you said, played really bad in the division last year. The Bears are the Bears and have a new coach. We think they'll be better, but we don't know yet. And then the Vikings, who had a really good record. They brought in some good free agents, and they have a really good coach. My gut feeling is they probably finish last, but if McCarthy can play, so all four teams have a little bit of a question. It will be interesting to see who finishes on top of that division. Do they send 3 teams to the playoffs again? We know playoff teams change. There's usually always 4, 5, 6 new teams that make the playoffs as a whole. So it's going to be a tough one there in the NFC North.
This is the thing that I've heard from several people. They think the Lions, obviously they still have the most talent in the division, but they are super worried about the coaching and Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's a weird cat, and he does things his own way. But he had 2 veteran, really good coordinators in Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson to still make the ship go the right way. Even if Dan Campbell's doing something weird out there, whatever. Those 2 guys knew football, knew how to do things the right way. And now both those guys left this year. I think we talked about this earlier. We saw the Eagles do this. And then they took a step back and then they rebounded. But they took that step back first.
Yeah, that the roster as a whole is not a question. They're loaded everywhere. Everybody pays attention to Aiden Hutchinson, of course, but McNeil, their interior defensive lineman, they lost him in the season too. So they're getting 2 linemen back that are some of the best in the league. I think Aiden Hutchinson's a good bet to win Defensive Player of the Year. He played 6-7 games last year, I think it was. And he still led the team in sacks and missed 10 or 11 games, whatever exactly it was. So he's a monster. But really, for the Lions, it's just, can those coordinators, especially on offense, can he be 90% of what Ben Johnson was? I'd like to see him run the ball a little bit more consistently. I thought at times they got a little pass happy, especially in that playoff game against Washington. But that's really the question with the Lions. The talent's there. So if they're healthy, there's really no excuses for the Lions.
Right. I agree. Anything else with the NFL schedule or just any other topic?
Christmas Day, I wrote down the games. Like I said, I haven't had time to go through all the schedules.
What day of the week is Christmas Day this year? Do you know?
I don't know, but I can look it up here real quick. Christmas Day will be on a Thursday.
Okay, so that is a normal NFL day. So that is, you can play Sunday and then play Thursday. So that is, I know teams don't like it, but that is normal.
Yeah, it is normal. So the early game will be the Cowboys at Washington. The afternoon game will be Lions at Vikings. And then the night game will be the Broncos at the Chiefs.
So 3 of those teams play Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day.
Correct. So the Lions, the Cowboys, and the Chiefs both play on Thanksgiving and Christmas.
You suppose they get paid more because they have to work holidays?
I don't know about the players.
Double pay on double holiday pay.
Yeah, maybe some of the staff, in the facilities and stuff like that, maybe get paid double. I don't know how all that works, but that's.
I bet it's you just work your job.
yeah, you just work your job no matter what. There's a lot of money involved in the NFL. So besides the schedule, Derek Carr retired,
Yep.
and George Pickens was traded to the Cowboys. That's really the only two notes.
And Hunter Deckers did sign with the Saints after Derek Carr retired. He signed a 3-year deal, which is kind of good for him. Obviously, it's not guaranteed or anything, but the talent was never the question. Now, he did not play great in his 1-year starter at Iowa State, and then obviously completely messed it up and admitted it, was wrong. But you grow up, you live and learn, and I'm glad he's getting a chance. No guarantees, but he's getting a chance. Obviously went to Iowa Western, had a great year. And the NFL is taking a look. And I hope he does well. I hope he can, when he gets a chance or if he gets an opportunity, I hope he can take advantage of it.
Yeah, there's one less quarterback on the roster now for the Saints. So
he just went up one spot.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. We see it all the time in the NFL. A guy gets injured. Who knows if somebody gets injured in camp or in a preseason game? Maybe he gets a few snaps and works his way up the depth chart. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, Derek Carr retiring. There were some rumors of the injury. He was going around doing church sermons, and then the sports networks were reporting it. Then he got mad that they were reporting it, and then a week later he retires. A good career. You wonder how good his career would have been if he hadn't been on the Raiders and the Saints. What if he would have gotten Andy Reid as a coach? Would he have maybe won a couple playoff games? I'm not saying he would have got a Super Bowl. I don't think that would have happened, but right. I think if he would have had an Andy Reid, maybe he could have won a playoff game or two.
Yeah, any player, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a quarterback, but you always think of quarterbacks. If they went to just a different place, different situation, how many quarterbacks went to the Browns over the course of their careers and just never was able to get out of it? Baker Mayfield got out and he got out in time. It didn't kill his career. It hurt his career, but it didn't kill it.
Yeah, the Browns, there's so many quarterbacks there. We'll talk about the Browns plenty coming up this season. We'll save that for another time. But you're right. For any player, if you go to a bad team, you have a bad coaching staff, maybe you don't get the opportunities that you want. It just depends. And speaking of really talented players who are blowing opportunities kind of, is George Pickens, who the Steelers finally said enough is enough. I told you the year that he came out of the draft, that was my favorite receiver out of that draft.
Right. He
went in the second round because of, all the reasons that we're seeing over the last few years. He's a head case off the field and on. He gets all sorts of penalties. So for Dallas trading for him, I mean, the talent's there. It's a contract year for him. So he's probably going to be on his best behavior, whatever that means. We'll see.
Right.
And then Dallas, of course, they're going to have a decision to make. If they get a good year out of him, say he has, 1,000 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns, he's going to want to get paid a lot of money. Well, they've already paid Dak and CD. Micah wants a deal. Are you going to be able to pay Micah and potentially George Pickens along with CD and Dak? So I don't know. I told you about a month ago, Dallas was a team at 7.5 wins. I kind of like the over.
Right.
But looking how Jerry's been the last few years, he's kind of turned into Al Davis a little bit. Dak is older, off a second injury. Mike is doing podcasts. CD Lamb's family, tweeting about Dak during last season. And then the George Pickens trade. There's a lot going on with Dallas that maybe I'm not going to bet they're over. I might hold off on that one. I don't know what to make of the Cowboys this year.
I just never know what to do with the Cowboys. You would think that you almost want Jerry Jones, maybe just deep down, maybe just get one more, and then he can give it to Steven and then just call it a career. But you brought up Al Davis. That's what it's looking like. He's almost too desperate, not letting it just play out and happen organically. That's when it happens. And then, the Chiefs weren't very good for a long time, and they got lucky with the draft pick, and but then they've drafted really well since him too. Was it the 21 or 22 draft where they have like 7 starters in that one draft class? I mean, it's unbelievable. You do have to get lucky in the NFL because you can't just go get free agents every time because they're too expensive.
Yeah, you got to hit on draft picks. I mean, like I said, if you have 7 draft picks, which every team starts with, and then depending on trades or if you get in trouble, you gain or lose them. But say 7, if you can find 3 starters
Yep.
out of those 7 picks. That's usually a really good draft. And yeah, for the Chiefs, they obviously had to trade up for him, but they still didn't get up to take him number 1, obviously. And with any draft pick, especially in the first round, it's basically a coin flip. So yeah, the Chiefs, it's a combination of things. They got Andy Reid, then they got Patrick Mahomes, they had Kelsey and Tyreek Hill ready to go. And yeah, with the Cowboys, I mean, I don't know, Jerry is getting up there in age. Like all of us are going to be one of these days with Father Time. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of years left to potentially see the Cowboys get one more. Part of me would like to see Dallas, as much as I've hated them in my life. I wouldn't mind seeing them maybe get a trophy, but then, the
downside, right back down. Yeah.
The downside to that would be all the Cowboy fans that we'd have to put up with. So I'd be happy for Jerry just because it'd be a good send off for him. But yeah, I don't know what to pick the Cowboys this year. Yeah. I'm undecided now on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Him, fine. All the Cowboy fans, no. And then we'd have to see him even more. We see him enough.
Yeah, 2 weeks of Super Bowl week leading up, and then if he hosts a trophy, yeah, it'd be a lot. It'd be entertaining. I mean, it'd make for some really good television and storylines throughout the year. But yeah, I think for Dallas, I'm just going to stay away on their over-under. Maybe before the season, I'll make a decision.
Yeah. All right. And then our last topic here, PGA Championship starts tomorrow morning. Quail Hollow. Rory McIlroy has absolutely dominated that course in the regular tour stop there. Can he go back-to-back? I hope so, because I got him in our draft tonight. And then the other thing that they're talking about, which, right or wrong, it would have been brought up, but it's getting brought up way more since Rory completed his Grand Slam, is can Jordan Spieth complete the Grand Slam this week? He has not played well, I would say, over the last 2 years. He is playing better. I don't think he can do it. I don't think he's in enough form, but you never know.
Yeah, for me, the players that are under the most pressure, I mean, you got the big 3. Those guys are kind of jumbled together. They've won majors recently, so I don't think there's as much pressure on them. But I would put Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth under the most pressure, I guess you'd call it, for this tournament. Justin Thomas is obviously playing a lot better than Jordan Spieth is right now. I think Justin Thomas has won here before, I believe, or he's played well here before, one of the two. For Spieth, obviously he needs it for the career Grand Slam, but it does feel like, obviously you said you had Rory in our pool. It does feel like one of those 3 are probably going to win it. Most people I listen to, articles I've written, they don't really like a lot of long shots this year for the PGA, but I had a picture I meant to send to the group of past PGA champion players that have won it and what their odds were pre-tournament. So last year, Xander was 16-1.
Okay.
In 23, Brooks was 20-1. 22, Justin Thomas was 16-1. In 2021, Phil Mickelson was it 2,500-1?
Oh, probably
250, I should say.
250. Okay.
Colin Morikawa 30-1. Brooks 10-1, 20-1. The last time the player was under 10-1 was Rory in 2014 at 7-1. So the history shows you can find some guys in that 20 to 30-1 range to win the tournament. But this year it does feel like you got to have one of those big 3.
Yeah. I mean, you just can't bet against Scotty right now. I mean, you can't. It's not Tiger versus the field. I'd still take the field every time, but you're going to lose sometime. I mean, not Tiger lose, but when Scotty's on, he's the best player. It's not close.
Yeah, those 3, it's supposed to be wet. So a lot of people think it's going to favor the long hitters for this tournament. I know on DraftKings you can do any combination of 3, but you can get Scotty, Rory, and Bryson, I think at plus 110 or plus 120. So you can get any one of those 3 to win, basically a little more than double up your money.
Yeah, that'd be.
It's tempting. I mean, those are the big 3 right now. And you could do other guys too. You can make that bet, and then you could throw in a Justin Thomas and maybe a Shane Lowry as a couple others.
Yeah. How has Koepka been playing? Do you know on Live? I just don't know. I mean,
I don't know either. I got him. He was one of the players. If you look at my team, you couldn't have gotten my team pre-Live because I have Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, and Patrick Reed. Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka all would have gone in the first round early. But this is a team that was really good whatever, 5 years ago.
This is your fantasy baseball team 4 years too late.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Brooks has won this multiple times.
Yeah, I say Brooks has a chance. I mean, he always has a chance because I love his mindset. Now, I don't know if his game's doing good enough. You got to be in form, but he's won this. I think he's won this 3 times, right?
I think this one 3 times. Yep.
And then the Open twice,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah, because he hasn't won the other 2.
Right. Yeah, as far as he's been playing, other than now I forget even how he did at the Masters, but I haven't been paying attention to him on Live, so I'm not sure. But that's a guy that you won't be surprised after the first day if he's there on the leaderboard.
Yeah, and this is a course that this is an every year stop on the PGA Tour. Now it's set up probably a little different because it is a major, but this is not a course that people don't know as well. They know this course.
Yeah, that's been a topic that I've been hearing people talk about too. Is a lot of people aren't in love with this course or this location. And John Middlecoff, who I listen to a lot, he was saying, a lot of people don't realize the PGA Championship. You have to go to these clubs, and these clubs have to be okay with you overtaking their course for 2 weeks to a month, shutting it down to their members. Some of these courses are only open 6, 7, 8 months a year. So it's kind of tough to find a perfect place for the PGA Championship. Some people suggest to play it at Pebble every year, but Pebble already has an event. Same with this course, has an event every year. So it's tough easier said than done to find a place to play the PGA Championship year in and year out.
And one of the reasons it's harder is you can't play it. You can't play it in Minnesota or Wisconsin like you used to be able to. You can't go to Hazeltine. It's too early. You cannot guarantee that course would be ready. Now, I think this year it would have been. Our weather's been great. It's been 80 degrees here the last 3 days. But you can't guarantee that. So it can't go to Hazeltine or up to Wisconsin like it has. It just can't when it was in August. If it was in August still, you could play anywhere in the country. But being the first couple weeks of May, probably New York can't be played. I mean, there's places you can't play it now that 5 years ago you could have played it.
Yeah, up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, you might get snow, or you might have a snow a week or 2 before the tournament, and then you're scrambling to get the course ready in time. You got to have a bunch of patrons on the course. What kind of damage could that do? So you're right. I mean, with it now being in mid-May, there's only a number. It kind of cuts out certain locations that they can have it at.
Yeah, we played. My girls are super lucky, but we played at Des Moines Golf and Country Club on Monday for the Waukee Invite. And obviously that course is Solheim Cup, U.S. Senior Open. It was in pretty good shape, but I don't know if it would be ready. And if anybody could be in Iowa, you're talking there, Wakanda, Davenport Country Club, or Cedar Rapids Country Club. Those are the best in Iowa. And I don't know if they would be ready. I just don't. I mean, it was in good shape, but it's still not full ready. I mean, it would be tough, I think.
Yeah, Colorado got hit with snow a couple weeks ago. I think the mountains got like 10 feet or something crazy. So, I mean, there's a lot of places that it'd be really tough to do it mid-May. Before we get off, I know I didn't text it to you. I don't know if we ever talked about this before. It was something random I was thinking of because I saw a post, I think by Matt Sherlock a while back on the Facebook page. But
you have one of his random questions?
Yeah, but I was going to ask, do you have 2 or 3 of your favorite holes in town at any of the courses? What would they be?
In Oskaloosa. So you got to look at this a couple different ways. One, are there holes that you play well? And then holes you like. Then you got holes you hate. I think the easiest ones are the holes you just hate and you can't figure it out. And that's 17 at Edmondson. Par 3 up the hill, it doesn't matter. That hole sucks. I like 16. I think that's one of my. I play that hole relatively well. I've actually hit it in for eagle 2 or 3 times on that hole. You hit 2 good shots, you got a good chance for birdie there.
16.
I think one of my
16 at Edmondson, right? Because 16 at Oskies is a short one too. Speaking of 16 at Edmondson, that's a course that our hole that Cody I always joke with him. He birdies out like every other time, it seems like.
Yeah, if you hit 2 good shots, you can get it. I think at Edmondson, I really like 3. 3 is again, I make birdie there.
You like 3?
But it will if you don't do well there, it will all of a sudden you can get a 6 there easy if you mess up. But it will reward you for 2 good shots if you make a good putt. Now, some of it depends where the pin is. The pin's up in the front, it's not good. It's hard. But I like 3. It's a little bit challenging, and it plays different depending on the pin placement.
3 is my least favorite hole at Edmondson.
And I do understand that. But for some reason, I do get birdie there enough. I mean, I don't get birdie enough anywhere, but that is a hole I do birdie. And I would say another one I like is 12. I don't mind hitting from the back in the chute. That doesn't bother me a whole lot. And that's another green. If you hit the green, that's a putt you can make.
Yeah, no, it is. My favorite hole in town is number 5 at Edmondson, basically just because of the second shot. If you get in that layup area on top, I love shots where you're hitting down over a creek or something. The ball kind of floats in the area.
That's another good birdie hole.
I like that. And then my favorite, and I've probably now at this point in my life, I've probably played over 100 different golf courses, in different states. My favorite opening hole anywhere is still number 1 at Edmondson. You've got the clubhouse behind you. I don't care who you are. You want to hit a good shot because
people are watching.
People are watching, whether they're in the clubhouse or they're gathered around, in the areas around one there. You want to hit a good tee shot. Mm-hmm. And it's all right in front of you. You can see down the fairway. There's not a ton of trouble. It's driver wedge for most of us. But number 1 at Edmondson is still my favorite opening hole of anywhere that I've ever played throughout my life.
Yeah, one of my least favorite holes is number 1 at Oski Golf. The par 3 right along the road. I just never seem to hit a good tee shot there ever.
That's a tough opening hole. I kind of like that.
And that's why we always play breakfast balls there.
Breakfast ball, yeah, they always do. Oski Golf, a hole I really like on the front. It's a tough one. It's a long par 4, but it's number 9.
Yeah, it's long.
It's a long one, but that was the hole when I worked there for a couple of years. I practice on that hole more than any other hole on the course. So I think that's part of the reason I like it. And it's one of those 2 where if you hit a good drive, you're coming up by the restaurant and the clubhouse and the putting green. So you want to hit a good shot. I mean, you don't want to shank it over toward that putting green or hit one of the windows. So there's that added pressure of the clubhouse right there. I really like the layout of number 11. Again, the greens on the back 9, we all kind of know the story there, but the layout of the back 9 is really fun. I mean, 18 is a great finishing hole.
Yep.
It really is a tough tee shot to get it in a good spot at the top of that hill, or if you want to get a little aggressive and go down to that landing area. And then if you do, of course, get on top of the hill, that second shot over the water is a fun one.
Yeah, and that's actually we go there tomorrow for a golf tournament, and they will probably change 11 and 18 because of they're hard. You're carrying water, and Corey has on 11. He doesn't make him hit over the first. Your driver there. We just played as a par 3, and the same thing with 18. Put it 100 yards out and just literally just hit it over the water. You don't have that drive and then hit over the water. It just speeds up play and makes it a little bit easier. You still have to hit good shots, but you would be there a long time on 11 if you had to hit it over the first penalty area and then hit it over another penalty area like we do.
Yeah, for beginners, I mean, high school players, girls, I mean, that's going to be a tough hole. You've got trouble all over on 11. You got it left, right, short, long, even. I mean, and then you have to hit your next shot over the creek again to a tough green. Got a bunker there on the front left, so that is a tough hole for beginners. Definitely, I could see why you do that. And then again, with 18, there's a lot of trouble there. But yeah, I still, to this day, though, number 1 at Edmondson. That's my favorite opening hole of anywhere I've ever played.
Oh, it's a good one. Yeah, again, you just try to hit it right down the middle because everybody's watching.
Mm-hmm. And then one last shout out. I know as we're ending here, I think I saw did Zach's son Jordy shoot a 69? Did you see that?
Yep, 1 under today in their. I don't know what the boys first sectional. I think it's the sectional qualifier. And then, so they will move on to the district final, which will go to the winners of that one, top couple teams and players to go to the state tournament. But yeah, Sigourney had a great day. Obviously, Zach's son, he won it with the 69. Sigourney had the top 5 golfers in their sectional. Then there was a player there, and then their 6th player was the 7th. So 6 of the top 7 golfers. I think they shot a school record 286, and they will move on to Anita, which is Crestwood Hills Golf Course, which is where I grew up playing. When I got a little older, I grew up at 5x80 Country Club, but then that Anita course opened up another 9 when I was probably 12 or 13. And so I asked Dad if we could go over there so we could play 18 holes. And my dad was okay with that. So we started going over there. Because it was really, so 580 was about 10 miles from our house, and the Anita golf course is about 12. So it didn't really matter. Neither one of them were in town. So
no, I just wanted to give a shout out to Jordy Tremble, and now we can give Zach a hard time.
Yeah, he's might not be the best golfer in his house now. And his daughter Addie is one of the best players on his girls team as well, and she's getting better each time. She shoots most of the time under 50 for a 9, so right about 100, which for a young sophomore. And Addie hasn't played a ton of golf, just getting better, and she does a great job as well.
No, that's good to hear. Zach's done a really good job coaching him up, which is no surprise there, and just got to give Zach a hard time that his son can beat him now.
Yeah, I know Jordy. Zach had to go buy a new golf cart because I think Jordy started playing too much golf, and he was wearing out his other one.
Yeah, that's getting him into golf is great, but then they want to get all the clubs and the cart and all the gear, and that's
not cheap.
Golf's like any hobby that it sounds like people I talk to have different hobby. I mean, everything's expensive now. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what it is. Absolutely.
I think walking is the only free hobby left.
Yeah, but then you got to buy the Fitbit watch, and I know people that wear the heavy weighted chest things, and you get the Camelback water thing, so you can even make walking expensive.
You can.
Got the fancy earbuds.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but shout out to Jordy and Sigourney and Zach and all those players.
Yep. They did a great job, and they'll have a good chance. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park like it was today to get to the state tournament. But if they play well, I think they should be able to move on.
Well, hopefully next week when we get on, we'll have some more updates on them and some other things going on around the state.
Nope, very good. All right, thanks a lot, Trev. Just a little over an hour, so right where we want to be. Thanks a lot. And for Trevor Voss, I am Ryan Morgan. This is Morgan You Asked For podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Have a good night.